Hi, everyone. I often refer to the psychological concept of intolerance of uncertainty as the fuel that drives the worry engine. But sometimes people wonder what exactly is intolerance of uncertainty and how does it show up in a person's life? So, this is a continuation of our video series on worry management skills. And if you've seen any of the other videos in this series, you'll know that we've covered a basic model for understanding worry, how worry begins with a trigger leading to a spiral of what if questions, which leads to worry and anxiety. And over time, this cycle can leave a person feeling drained and demoralized and exhausted because they're going through this trigger what if worry anxiety, trigger what if worry anxiety day after day after day. And in our last video, we introduced the idea of intolerance of uncertainty as the fuel that keeps this worry engine going. And so today, we're going to focus on some of the ways in which intolerance of uncertainty can manifest itself in our behavior. Now, the core dilemma for people who worry a lot is this. On one hand, they struggle with uncertainty, often finding it uncomfortable and unbearable. On the other hand, though, uncertainty is a natural part of life. You can't eliminate it no matter how much you try. So the solution isn't about trying to control the uncontrollable or to get rid of uncertainty. The solution is about learning how to tolerate uncertainty better. But how exactly do you do that? It's not enough to just think your way out of this, to think, I need to be more tolerant of uncertainty. Instead, the focus has to be on learning how to tolerate uncertainty better. But how exactly do you do that? Well, it's not enough to just think, I need to be more tolerant of uncertainty. You need to act in ways that build your tolerance for uncertainty. And in order to do that, you first need to understand how intolerance of uncertainty has manifested itself into your behavior and into your life. And there's two main ways that these manifestations of intolerance of uncertainty take their form. They're either through avoiding uncertainty and uncertain situations, or trying to eliminate uncertainty by gathering information to make uncertain situations more clear and certain. In today's video, we're going to be talking about ways in which we avoid uncertainty or try to avoid uncertainty. And in the next video, the follow-up video, we're going to be talking about information gathering as a manifestation of intolerance of uncertainty. So let's start with the first three manifestations of intolerance of uncertainty, which are avoidance, creating imaginary obstacles or reasons not to do things, and procrastination. And these are all variations of pretty much the same thing. You're trying to create a temporary sense of certainty. So, for example, imagine that a friend calls me and I don't call them right back. A few days or weeks go by, and now I start worrying about how they're going to react if I call them. Now, as long as I avoid making that call, I have a certain level of certainty. I know that right now my friend isn't mad and yelling at me. I'm not hearing their disappointment or their frustration about the fact that it's taken me so long to return their call. So, what avoidance does is it gives you a short term escape from uncertainty and the discomfort associated with uncertainty. The same goes for procrastination or coming up with imaginary reasons or obstacles not to do something. You might tell yourself, I'll call them tomorrow, or they're probably too busy to talk anyway. These are all ways of delaying the potential moment where I'd have to face the unknown and face them being upset with me. Another common manifestation of intolerance of uncertainty is not fully committing to relationships, jobs, or projects. And the idea behind this is that we hold back because we're afraid of what might go wrong. If I don't fully invest myself in something, I can think to myself, well, if it doesn't work out, it won't hurt as much. It's not that big of a deal. It's like keeping one foot in, one foot out, just in case. Now, I've seen this play out a lot in clients in relationships where the client can't fully commit because they're constantly worried that the relationship might not last. And what happens over time is this half in, half out approach to the relationship often leads to the very outcome that they were afraid of, which is that the relationship falls apart. You can see the same pattern in other areas, like work or school. A student might not put their full effort into studying, thinking, If I don't do well, then that's okay because I didn't really try. I didn't really invest myself in it." It's a way of protecting themselves from the possibility of failure, but it also prevents them from truly succeeding. Um, another manifestation of intolerance of uncertainty is the tendency to do everything yourself and to avoid delegating tasks. So the idea behind this is it's all about control. If I do everything myself, I know it's been done right, or at least I know it's been done the way I want it done. But the moment you involve someone else, uncertainty enters the situation. What if they don't do it well? What if they make a mistake? What if they mess up? And then I just have to fix it. To avoid these worries, there's a temptation to then take on too much, which uh, eliminates that uncertainty, sort of. But what it does is it creates this feeling of being overwhelmed and exhausted. It's a way of trying to eliminate uncertainty, but it often just creates more stress in the long run. The next manifestation of intolerance of uncertainty is one that my clients either they relate to or they don't relate to at all. And this one is over explaining or having an exaggerated sense of optimism. And the idea behind this is you try to convince yourself that everything is going to be okay, everything's going to work out perfectly, even when you don't know for sure if that's the case. It's like saying to yourself, "Don't worry, it's going to be fine," without really believing it, without really knowing or believing it. The problem is deep down, you know you can't predict the future. And so this false sense of certainty doesn't really actually make you feel better. It's just an attempt to avoid the uncertainty and the anxiety of not knowing by trying to convince yourself, of course, it's going to be okay. The next manifestation of intolerance of uncertainty is spreading yourself too thin. And this happens when I say yes to everything because I'm afraid of missing out. So the idea here is that I'm avoiding the fear of missing out. So what I do is I try to keep all of my options open, but never fully committing to any of them. So I've got a whole bunch of hands in a bunch of jars, but I can't commit to doing any of them because that would take away from the potential for another opportunity that might come up. So the result is I'm constantly busy, but never really focused. And over time, this just leads to burnout because I'm trying to do too much at once. It's an effort to avoid uncertainty, but all it's really doing is just keeping me overwhelmed because I'm not picking one path. I'm trying to keep all of my paths, all of my options open. And finally, the last manifestation of intolerance of uncertainty that I want to talk about today is overprotecting others or doing things for them. And so this is a variant of that manifestation of intolerance of uncertainty, which is wanting to do everything yourself and not delegating tasks to anyone else. The thing is, in this case, what you're not delegating is allowing the other person to do things for themselves. And you see this a lot in parents. So the idea is that they try to control the outcome for someone else, often out of fear that the other person will struggle or fail or something will go bad for them, and they don't want to see that person hurt or upset. So, for example, a parent might step in to try and solve every problem for their child, from uh, their schoolwork to their friendships and social relationships. And so, while this might feel like helping, what it does is it actually prevents the other person from learning how to handle or manage challenges or problems on their own. So it's creating a false sense of certainty, a belief that I'm in control and nothing bad will happen to this person that I care about because I'm doing things for them. But in reality, all this really does is limits the other person's growth and independence. So we have a whole bunch of manifestations of intolerance of uncertainty. So what exactly do you do with this? What's the takeaway? Well, the point of this is that intolerance of uncertainty can show up in many different ways, from avoidance, procrastination, to overprotecting others. The key is to recognize these patterns because that's the first step towards making some changes in terms of being able to better manage worry. The more you're aware of these manifestations of intolerance of uncertainty, the more you're going to be able to do something about them and the more you're going to be able to change them. And in the next video, we're going to be talking about other manifestations of intolerance of uncertainty that relate to eliminating uncertainty by gathering information. And you can find that video here once I've posted it. So that's all for today's video. As always, thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video, and I will see you in the next one.